What's up, you data friends? It's Yanis here and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to fully automate a Power BI dashboard using SQL, which is something that you will probably need to know how to do as a data scientist or a data analyst. Maybe it's not Power BI and it's Click or Tableau, but the idea is the same. I'm going to start this video by explaining how to automate the raw data input, so from raw data in Excel into SQL, and then how to schedule this process to run itself. Then I'm going to show you how to connect SQL with Power BI and how to create this automated dashboard in order to run itself. So every time you have new raw data into Excel, SQL is going to pick it up, update the database, and then send the data into Power BI where we can see the updated data. And before we continue with this video, let me just say that if you're new to my channel and you're passionate about data science, then please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel and enabling notifications for my future videos. Right, the first thing you want to do is to open SQL Server Management Studio and connect to your database. Now, if you don't know how to use SQL Server Management Studio, I'm going to have a link in the description of my previous videos where I explain how to download SQL and SQL Server Management Studio, how to create a server, how to create a database, and how to run SQL queries. So I go through the most important SQL queries. So I suggest watching that if you don't know how to use SQL Server Management Studio. Right, the first step now is to create an empty table so we can take the raw data from Excel and input it into this empty table. And just to quickly go over our raw data, this is a file that I have downloaded from a public dataset online from Kaggle, and it basically has some indicators, which is things around GDP and population per country and per year, and then we have the value. So what we need to do now is to take all these column names, go back into SQL and create table. This is a new table which I'm going to name it as raw data GDP, and I'm going to specify all the column names. So as you can see, demo int is actually the column name of this one, then indicator, location, country, then over here we have indicator, location, country, etc., etc. And next to each column name, I want to specify the type. So this is a character with 200 characters, again a character, 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 character. Here on the value, I actually have float because this is float is a number, and then I have again character, character, and then I close my table and then I create this table. This code at the top, what it basically says is that if this table, which is this table, is not null, so if it exists, then I want to drop the table. And the reason I have this code like this is because I can rerun it as many times as I want. So if we quickly run this table above, so if I copy this and paste it above here and then run it, so select everything from this table, we can see that we don't have any data in it. It's just an empty table. Right, the next step now is to import the data from Excel into this new empty table. And to do this, you will need to do a bulk insert into this table name from, and this is going to be the path that you have your CSV file saved with format equals CSV. To do this now, there is a few things to note. The first thing you have to do is to go in the location that you have saved this file and then copy this path. So Control C and then Control V into your code over here until here, and then have a slash at the end with the name of the file. So this is actually the name of my file, which is this one over here. And I also have a .csv at the end as this is a CSV file. The second thing you have to note is that your file, which is this one over here, you have to delete the column names. As you can see, I've deleted the column names. And this is because we have already specified the column names up here. The third thing you have to note is that you will need to actually close this file in order for the query to work. So if I try and run it with the file open, I should get an error. As you can see, I get the error over here. Now, if I close this file, which is my raw data file, and then I rerun the query, so I go back and rerun this query, you can see that it works fine. And if I select everything from this query now, you can see that we have all the data that we had in the CSV file, which is this raw data over here. Right, the next thing now is to create a view that is only going to have the data we need so we can send it into our dashboard. Just because, let's say we don't want to send all this raw data into our dashboard, we want to write a query that selects some of that data and it applies some aggregations. To do this, I have created this view down here, and just to explain how this join works, my first table, table A, if I run it, I have country, year, and the GDP value. My table B, if I run it, is going to have country, year, and the GDP per capita. And then I join my A and my B. I actually left join it on country and then on year. And then if I select everything from the top, so A dot everything and B dot GDP per capita, I have country, year, GDP value, and GDP per capita. And I'm going to create a view and name it as GDP Excel input, and then save this query into this view. So if I run this view, I should get an error, and this is because this view actually exists. I have rerun this before. So if I quickly drop the view again and then rerun it. So the first time you create it, you don't have to have this drop over here, and then you don't need to have it ever again. You only create this one and that's fine. And as you can see, it worked fine. So if I select everything from this view now, we can see, oops, this is not the view, this is the distinct indicators. Select all from copy and paste from, and then if I run this, this is our view. You can see that we have country, year, GDP value, and GDP per capita, and we want to send this view into our dashboard now so we can automate our dashboard. Right, the next step now is to create a store procedure so we can actually schedule all this code we just did to run per day or per week or per month, etc., etc. So what I did over here is that I have copied step 1, so this is step 1, and copied step 2. I don't need to copy and paste step 3 into the store procedure, as the view we have created is always going to get the latest data from this table, and this table is actually the table we have just created. So down here where we have the store procedure, I only copied and paste step 1 and step 2. And at the top, I say create procedure, and then I give it a name and then as, and then I run this. And then this should give me an error again because I have already created this store procedure. But if I drop it and then rerun it, then it is going to work fine. And just to test it, if I say execute procedure and then the procedure name, and if I run this, what this is going to do is going to run step A, and then it's going to run step B. So it's going to drop this table if it exists, and then it's going to bring all the raw data from our Excel file. And with this store procedure, you only have to create it once, and the next step will be to schedule it to run itself. So to schedule it, we have to create a job into our SQL Server agent. Now, if you're not able to see the jobs down here, then you will need to go into the SQL Server Configuration Manager. So you go into start and you type in SQL and it should show up. And you need to make sure that your server, I'm using 08, is actually started. So you right click and you click start. Otherwise, this jobs activity over here is not going to show in your SQL Server Management Studio. And since we are here, again, we need to confirm that the server 8 and the server 8 down here is actually running. The next step you have to enable here is that you will need to go into the actual server over here and make sure you have this TCP/IP enable, as this is going to enable us to connect SQL with our front-end visualization tool, which could be Excel or Power BI or any other visualization tool. So make sure you enable these and you also start your SQL server over here. Another thing you will need to do, just to make sure that your SQL server is going to always start over here itself, so you don't have to go on and start it yourself, so the schedule is going to work fine, then you will need to double click on your server, go into service and change this start mode from manual to automatic. So what this is going to do, click apply and then OK, is that it's going to start the server every day itself, so you don't have to actually start it from here. Hence, all your scheduled jobs are going to run daily without you having to start this yourself. Sorry, not daily, depending when do you schedule them. Right, after configuring all this, you will have to go back to SQL Server Management Studio and then close it and reopen it, so the SQL Server agent is going to appear. The next thing to do now is to create the job and schedule it. So we right click on the SQL Server agent and click on new job. Here we have to give it a name, so I'm just going to say job test 1. Then we can also give a description if we want to. The next thing will be to go down to steps and click on new, and here is where we are going to specify our steps. So step name is going to be, I'm just going to say step 1. It's going to be a TSQL script, run as, I think we can leave it as it is. And down here, we need to specify the database, and the database is going to be this database we use over here. So I select my database and then the command. The command is going to be this command we have over here. So we actually want to execute that store procedure. So if I copy this exec and then the procedure name, which is the procedure name over here, let me just quickly double check it. Yeah, this is the one. I go back into the job and I put it over here. And then I click OK. And then if we go down to schedules now, we click on new. And then here we need to give it a name. So this is going to be, I'm going to say just schedule 1. This is going to be recurring. That's fine. This is going to occur and over here I can set it every when I want this to run. So I'm going to say every week I want to run this every Monday, let's say. Here we need to specify the time. So I'm just going to say 7 a.m. in the morning. And then I click OK. The next thing here will be if I want to set any alerts. And then if you want to set any notifications, but we don't want to do that for now, then we want to click OK. And then if we go down to jobs now, we can see we have this job test 1 we have just created. We can actually double click it and inspect it or change it or adjust it as we want. Right, so now we have created and scheduled our job. We want to go back into Power BI and connect Power BI with this view we have created before that has all the data we need. So very quickly, I'm going to show you how to create the connection and how to create this dashboard over here. To create the connection now, you want to click on Get Data and then select the SQL Server. Into Server, you want to go back into SQL, click on Disconnect, and then get this server name from here. So I'm just going to copy it quickly, then go back into Power BI, paste it over here. The database name is optional, but if you do want to put it in, then you can select this database you're going to have over here. Then I go back into Power BI, I click OK. Then in this navigator, you are going to see all the databases you have within the server, but I only have one database. And now I want to choose the name of the view we have created, which is GDP_Excel input, which is this one over here, GDP_Excel input. So I go back to Power BI, I select it. I can inspect it very quickly so I can see all the data, and then I click on load, and then where is it? If I go back into my data over here, once it finishes, if I go back here, we can see the table name over here. I actually have 2, and the reason I have 2 is because I already did this, so you will only see 1 over here, and you are going to see your 4 fields. Very quickly now, you want to right click into this and click on Edit Query, and we want to go and check the data types. So this one into transform, we can see this is text, is fine. This is text, which is not fine. So I want to make this into a whole number because it's the year. This is a value, but it did decimal number, so it's correct. And this is a decimal number, so it's correct. So we want to go back into home and click close and apply. So now we have created our connection and changed the data types. The next step now is to create this visualization. And in order to show you quickly how to do it, I'm going to go into here, click on page size, and then increase the size of the page. I have also increased the width into 1500, and I'm also going to do 1500. So I have some space down here to show you how to create stuff. The first thing I did is that I go into insert and do a text box where I have my title. Then I also go into insert and into images in order to add this image over here. And then I also go into insert, into shapes. I select the line to create this line you see over here, the blue. And then into the rotation, I have 90. So it's like a horizontal line, not a vertical. And I have also changed the color of the line to this one over, actually it's this one over here. If you want to change the palette themes, you can go click anywhere else in the report, go into view, and then from here you can change the palette themes. I tend to use the classic one over here. Right, to add these three slicers now, we want to click on the slicer over here, and then into the field we want to start with the country from the second table. So as you can see, we have the countries now, which is similar to this slicer over here. Next, I want to click on these three dots and add the search, so we can actually search for countries now. So Cyprus, for example, same case with this one at the top. So if I do Cyprus and then select it, everything should readjust, as you can see. Now I want to unselect it and go back. Let me remove this. I also want to do it over here. Next, I want to click on it, go into items and add the background for all the fields. So as you can see, we have this background. I think it's more bluey. I think it's this one over here. The next thing I have is that I add a border. So I go down to the border over here. I click on it and I add it, which is this border over here. There you go. You can see the border. Next thing I have is that I add the title. So I enable the title and I remove the slicer header. And in the title, I add the title, which is a country. I also change the background of the title to this one and the font to be black. And also put it in the middle and put it under 12. There we go. So it's exactly the same. I just have to resize it now to fit at the top right. Right, to create these two types of slicers now, you want to create this slicer as it is and go into a general thing and change the orientation to be horizontal. So as you can see, we have exactly the same slicer now, but in this format over here. So we can just click on it and test how it works. As you can see, it works fine. And so you can copy this, paste it twice, and then change the country with the year, and you are going to have these two slices in this type, and then this country slicer in the searchable type we have over here. The next step now is that I'm going to delete this quickly, is to create this line graph. And in order to create it, you just click on this visual at the top left. You add the year into axis. Into values, you want to add the GDP value. Then you want to go into the data colors, change the color to be this color over here. Then I also added the data labels and then change the colors of the data labels. And then you want to keep scrolling. You want to go down to the title. You want to add a title. You want to change the background color, the font, the alignment, and the text size of the title to be exactly as I have it over here. And then you also want to go down into the border and add the same border color, which is this one over here, as we have with our slices. In order to add this format, by the way, very quickly, you can click on one of the slicers, go into Format Painter, and then touch on this visual over here. And then the border and the title and the coloring should be exactly the same as this one over here. The next visual we have is a map. So we click on the map over here. We want to drag into location the country, and into size we want to drag the GDP value. We also want to touch on this visual, touch on Format Painter, and then touch on the map. And what this is going to do is that it's going to add the same color border and the same type of title. So you can go and change the name of the title. Then you want to go into the bubbles and make them into -22. And you can also change the map styles to these styles we have over here. I'm going to leave it as light. And the last thing I have is that I change the color to be red. The final visual we have over here now is just a simple table. And then into this simple table, we want to drag the country, the GDP value, and the GDP per capita, as you can see over here. You also want to click on GDP value in order to order it from largest to smallest. Then you want to touch on this visual, touch on format painter, and then touch back on the table in order to add the border and then the same coloring on the title. Then you want to go over here and change the title name. And the last thing I have is this conditional formatting over here. And in order to do it, you want to go under conditional formatting. Then you want to select the GDP per capita. Then you want to enable the background color. So if I disable it and enable it quickly, you want to click on advanced, and you want to change this into 2 lighter colors as I have over here. So it's easier for the eye to see the numbers. Right, if you want a more slow and detailed Power BI tutorial on how to build Power BI dashboards, I'm going to have a few links of my previous video in the description so you can go and watch those, as the aim of this video is around automation and not on how to build a Power BI dashboard. Right, now what I want to do is to test if this automation we have just created works correctly. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back into the Excel raw data and delete any data after 2010. So any data from here and after we want to delete. So to do this, I go back into my Excel files, which is this one over here. Let me see, is this one over here. Then I want to add a new line at the top. I want to go on and filter it. I want to filter by year. I want to unselect everything, and I only want to select everything up until 2010. Click OK, and then I select all of these lines and I delete them. Right click, delete rows. Right, so now I want to unfilter this, so select everything, and I want to delete this line at the top. I want to click on save, and I want to close this file so we can execute our store procedure. So we go back into SQL now, we just execute our store procedure. And then if we go back into Power BI, right click on our table and click refresh data, we see straight away that any data after 2010, so the last date we have is 2009, is gone. So you can see that all this automation worked within seconds. Now I want to go back into Excel. I want to delete this one, and I want to change the name of this one to be the actual one. So this file has all the data. So click OK. I want to execute our store procedure again with all the data. So this is where new data comes in. And then if I go back to Power BI, as you can see, no data after 2010. And if I refresh our view quickly, we should have new data coming in. There you go. So you can see we have data up until 2017. So you can see that all this automation and the process we have followed works within seconds, and it works perfectly. So this is why data scientists need to know how to automate all these things. Right, data friends, so this is the end of this video. So I hope you enjoyed this video and you've gained enough value out of this video. And if you feel like you did, please click the like button, subscribe to my channel, and enable notifications for my future videos. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching this video, and I'm going to see you in the next video.